Hi everyone, welcome. We're down here in my wormery preparing to check in on a pair of worm bins that have European nightcrawlers living in them. Let me see if I can run through the stats while they're fresh in my mind. I didn't write anything down, but these systems are 62 days of age here, about 2 months old, fed 5 times. And we were kind of in a pattern, feeding every 12 days, except last time there had been an interval between the two feedings of 14 days. But today we're back to 12 days since the last feeding. Feeding number 6 going in today. I'm curious about one of the things we fed last week, which was chestnut. There was a whole chestnut placed into each of these, as well as a third one I had that I cut in half. I don't really, feed chestnut, so I don't know what to expect. But we're going to get in there now, give them another little snack today, and see how those chestnuts are coming along. So let's get to work. What's on the menu today is a couple days worth of coffee, and that includes the coffee filters, a hard roll, which about an hour ago was still hard as a rock, is now totally soaked through and soft. And I got a bunch of these things too. Figured we'd give each system one of those. A little strawberry jam, strawberry jelly packet, and I've also got a whole bunch of leaves that we can use as bedding. I've got my prepared bedding as well. Thought we might use a little of both. And with those leaves, something I like to do is sometimes lay out top coverings into my worm bins of leaves, leafy matter. Just kind of gives the whole environment this appearance of somehow being a little bit more natural. And I remember these pieces of paper from last time. I believe here we just, is it here too? Yeah, it's folded over. So in both cases, the top covering newspaper went in as a double layer, which I usually don't do. I'll usually do my best to unfold things as best I can, but here we kind of deliberately figured, hey, let's see if we can create really hardy and long-lasting, wear-resistant top covering papers by simply deploying them as a two-layer. And here in bin number 2, this one's definitely showing, a lot more wear than the one in bin number 1. Not sure why, but they're both holding up well enough to be reused. Figured when it goes back in, we can just drop it right on top of the top coating of leaves that we'll give them. So today, as I showed you earlier, we've got coffee filters that we could rest out to show ourselves where we last fed, because that's just what we do down here. Good way to get rid of all the coffee filters that would otherwise pile up if they weren't being used that way in my worm bins. And I'm starting to see hints of the last feeding. Alright. But even though we didn't mark ourselves a spot, it is pretty typical in my systems to be feeding down the middle in each case. And that always tells me where to check to see how the last feeding's progressing. I know that the chestnut was placed right in the middle, and it does seem to me like there's a good bit of action right in the middle in both cases, but those other things added too. Man. One of the things I added was moisture. So I did spray down the feeding zone pretty good last time we were in here. So I doubt that it's the chestnut causing all the ruckus over here, all this excitement. Something else we gave them must have really struck their fancy, because they are having a good time down here, and it's nice and damp. Who knows, maybe it is just the moisture content that they're enjoying. Just trying to sort of be a little bit exploratory here to see if I can stumble on the half chestnut that was also put in here besides the whole one. Where did the whole one go? It's right there. What's this? That's not it. That's a jalapeno pepper. Alrighty. I think each system got a jalapeno pepper. Now it's coming back to me. At first it seemed like only one system was going to get it, and then we found another second jalapeno lurking in my food transport tray. So each system got a jalapeno. I wonder if that could have been the half or part of it. Yeah, I believe it is. There's the flower. I think that's what that is. And if it is, then that makes a pretty big difference in terms of the chestnut being cut open versus it not being cut open. No, that's not it. That's something else. That flower is the end of some other sort of item. So that half chestnut is somewhere in here. Here it is. Hey, no, look at that. Definitely coming across as a popular item here in the worm bin. Wasn't sure what to expect, but they definitely seem to like it. It's a tasty, definitely a tasty food. I really like chestnuts. I'm sure it's not for everyone, but this is the holiday season when they get popular, so I like to snack on them once in a while this time of year. Alright, these little guys want very much to get out of the light, but in a condition like this, there's just nowhere to go. They're oh, wait. Was it that one? No, we're not there yet. We haven't even excavated the feeding zone of bin number 2 yet, but we should probably get to it. Alright, here too. Good turnout. Probably in large part due to the fact that there's a good bit of moisture. Now here's the whole chestnut. Oh, look at the worms. They're definitely starting to cruise into it on this one. For some reason it looked like on the other one they weren't. Oh, look at that. Here we have half of an orange. And within the orange, you got yourself a nice little worm party happening. Here too, they've really got nowhere to hide. If it was just a pile of worms in their bedding material, they would all somehow manage to find a little piece of something to get under, and eventually no worms would be visible. They would all be right there, but there'd be a layer of whatever their bedding material is covering them, protecting them from view so predators can't come by and snatch them, or if this was sunlight we were in, then the sunlight wouldn't bake them dry. Alright, oops. The first little guy fell right there. And it might have just been because I moved, not because of them. They're really good at hanging on and not dropping off. Alright, you can see some asparagus was part of the last feeding. There's a little bit of that remaining in here. And as far as, oh, here's the other jalapeno. That one didn't turn red though, like in the other system. So where is the half? No. In this system, I believe we still have that half of a chestnut somewhere that we've yet to encounter, and here it is. Not too surprising, full of wormies, and we're not going to subject them to another gawking session. We're just going to press on with getting these systems fed now. I've got my prepared bedding, of which we'll use just a little bit, I think. I've got a few systems, not much older than these, but it does feel to me in those systems like I've sort of run myself into a little bit of a cramped situation. Like I've run out of, not run out of space, but I've cramped my way of working, which is oftentimes, you know, such that I'm piling stuff up and pushing stuff around, and for me, having the room to work and do those sort of things available is kind of important, you know. For other people, it might not be. They might not fiddle with their wormies quite as much as I do. But here we like to experiment, check out different things, try stuff, take a closer look than most would otherwise. And it's fun, but, oh, okay, what happened there? Part of it tore off. These are just jelly packets that, not even totally sure where they came from. I have a hunch, but it's not that important. Let's press on with giving them their fair share over here too. Yeah. I'm kind of in this mode of not wanting to dump frozen foods onto the poor unsuspecting wormies, but in this case nothing they're getting today is frozen. Everything, the coffee, the jelly packets, the bread, everything's all room temperature, so there's no concern over creating an uncomfortable or dangerous environment for these little guys, so not to worry. Alright. Alright, darn it. There's a nice little last chunk of that stuff in there. I didn't want to leave it. So, I think there was one other system where I put a couple jelly packets in, just to see what happens. Not sure what to expect there either, but hopefully they'll like it. I'm guessing that they probably will. So, let's think here for a second, before we press on to the next phase of obscuring our access to the feeding zones. Let's treat them to a little bit of grit there, and then we can cover up. I had thought about coming out here with the squirt bottle to possibly add even more moisture today. Whoa, okay. Just hit ourselves a big mother load of worms right there. But you know, I guess I kind of talked myself out of it, because everywhere in the bin it feels like we've got a good bit of moisture. And it is kind of true that the stuff we're giving them today, the coffee, the jelly packets, none of it really seems like it's bringing with it a great deal of moisture. Even that soaked piece of bread, you know, it's not like it's a juicy object. It's actually a rather dry object that has its moisture provided from outside and has been soaking. But I wouldn't really consider that as something that's contributing moisture to the system. All right, things look good. Very nice. Seems like they did a number on the bedding that we deployed into the feeding area for them last time, because then we were a bit more generous, I believe, than we were now on giving them bedding in there underneath the foods that we gave them. But it did seem like they did away with a good bit of it. All right. Still bumping into little scraps of the last type of feed. You know, I usually try to take leftovers and return them back to the feeding zone, which on this go around we do have the opportunity to mark with our feeding zone indicators. But you know, when it's little scattered bits of food like that, it's a bit impractical to think that you're going to be able to track them all down just to return them to some central spot. At that point, it's all just out in the wild. And there's our nice little top covering of leafy matter for these little guys, which I'm going to put in dry, which I think is a-okay. Once we put the plastic out and the moisture content of the system begins to recirculate underneath the plastic, even dry stuff will pretty quickly start taking on the moisture level of the nearby surrounding materials, and things will become quite cozy in here soon. Not to mention that we're also replacing these fairly damp pieces of paper on top too, which I'm sure will probably help as well. So I think we've created a nice environment. We've got the food, we got the grit. We didn't need the moisture, right? And we even got nice brand new feeding zone indicators. The top coverings, however, I'm wondering if by the next time we might start to see sufficient wear to make us consider replacing these. This one was definitely holding together, and I think it's really just my rough handling, which at this point might have detached them from each other almost, but they didn't. They're still connected, I can tell. But if I keep fiddling with it, it ain't going to stay that way for long, so... Officially, we did return one piece of material back as the contiguous top covering for bin number 2. So that's it for our check-in, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I sure did. It was a fun check-in. If you did, then please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.